Glenn, do you want to test your mic? Test.
Mic test.
Hi.
Got it.
Hello. All right. Let's go live. Oh, Aaron, I told you don't have to read the preamble anymore, right? Yes. Okay, good.
Because we're not. Yeah.
I was not, however, planning to share slides except for when I have something to show, because otherwise the video and what people would see on Zoom or YouTube is everyone is going to be in one tiny little box. So,
That's hard when we don't have a printed copy of the agenda of minutes or cell phone. Sorry, can you think about that?
We'll walk you through the agenda, and she wasn't having the minutes on the slide for a long time now.
Yeah, because I have the computer at home.
What, do you have comments on the minutes?
Yes.
Oh,
okay. I can hold them up on the screen when we get to that point.
Or I could just,
They wouldn't have been on the screen anyway, even if I was using slides.
I know, but in fact, I used to have it on the screen. I really miss having a printed copy. Right.
Okay, are we
Ready? Yep.
ready? Yes, okay. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Call the meeting to order. And don't forget to turn your mic on.
I think it's on. Welcome to the March 22nd to 2023 OSEC meeting. This is Erin Becker. I'm acting chair of the meeting today. We have an
One
audio
moment.
issue.
You can't hear me say this, but we're having technical difficulties.
Does this work?
maybe just say test a few times.
Test. Test. Check.
You have to do it like a rock star. Be like,
Check.
check, 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 check,
Oh,
check.
Check, please.
Audio.
Okay, we can proceed.
Does this work?
I think we are okay to proceed.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the March 22nd, 2023 OSEC meeting. We are in the community meeting room, City Hall in Brisbane, California. This is our first in-person meeting since the COVID pandemic hit the world. I believe the public is welcome to join either in person or through Zoom, or can watch on the Brisbane TV channel, I believe. With that, I think we're going to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Yes, please note for the record that member Chair Calmes and member Jason Noonan are absent this evening.
Okay. Glenn Feldman. Here. Barbara Ebel.
Here.
Michelle Salmon.
Here.
And Mary Rogers.
Here.
And I'm Erin Becker. First item is to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Vote. Glenn.
Aye.
Barbara.
Aye.
Erin. Aye. Michelle.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Very good. Agenda's adopted.
I will note that we no longer have to do roll call votes since you are in person. You can just ask for all in favor and everyone say aye. Any opposed or any abstentions?
Very good.
I remember when we used to do.
I kind of remember when we used to do that.
Yes. Remembering all these things we used to do. Well, Erin's new anyway. so.
Yeah, this is my first time in this room, much less at one of these meetings in person. I found the agenda on my cell phone, so I'm going to follow that. We have on the item, consider any request of a city council member to attend the meeting under the Emergency Circumstances Act of AB 2448, and I believe there are none.
Correct.
And now it's time for announcements. Any announcements? Very good. Any oral communications? Very good. Next is approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was February 22nd, 2023.
I do have a correction on the minutes, or it's really a nuance that I want to make sure that we capture. Can you pull up the minutes just real quick? Sorry, I just want to. It says consensus, move forward with staff drafted ordinance, which will be, stop there, customized to the Brisbane, I can't read it, it's really small.
Context.
But I wanted to say move forward with modifying the staff drafted ordinance, because that's what we talked about. And I want to really make that distinction that we're not just accepting what's there yet, but that we're working on modifying it to customize it to Brisbane and
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I did also notice that there was a typo that instead of Noonan, it said Nunes.
Yeah.
So I will also correct that in the approved minutes.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on that or can we move forward?
So with that, I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
I'll
Second.
second. Oh,
But you both seconded. I think it's good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Very good. Minutes are adopted. Approved, excuse me. New business. New business. Discuss review of Baylands specific plan. Would anyone like to open this discussion item?
Sure, I would like to actually. So am I on? You can hear me?
It doesn't sound like you're on your mic.
The light is on. Maybe I'm just not leaning close enough.
Also,
Um,
the on the screen, it still shows the minutes.
Really? That's fascinating.
Now we have to adjust to being back in the real world.
I am not sure why. It does not indicate that I'm sharing the screen. One moment.
Are you seeing the same there? All right. I think technical difficulties. Give a second.
Okay, you guys are seeing that, which is fine. That is not what the video looks like at this moment. So I think we are good to proceed unless that's going to bother anyone. Yes, okay. Discuss a review of Baylands specific plan. So we put this on the agenda because, as I'm sure you are all aware, the Baylands specific plan was submitted and shared with the public recently. And due to past council action that gave OSEC the ability to comment as a body on the Baylands project, you have that opportunity in front of you now. Our understanding is that comments on the specific plan are to be submitted along with the draft EIR comments when that time comes. However, we thought that it would be good to kind of start that discussion on process, how the committee wants to move forward with this. Obviously, we know these are long documents. There's a lot of interest. So we wanted to kind of get in front of that to the extent possible. My recommendation would be assigning an ad hoc subcommittee to do the detailed work of diving into first the specific plan, then the NOP, and ultimately the draft EIR, and compiling comments, which the subcommittee would then bring forward to the full OSEC body for review and approval before they would be submitted as public comments with, you know, anyone else's public comments, which you are all still welcome to do as individuals, of course, as well. So that's basically it at this point in time. I think I saw Glenn first and then Mary.
Just an initial comment. It sounds like an awful lot of work for a small subcommittee. And I wonder if there's some way to divide it up among subcommittees, because everybody here has other obligations. And I'm just would hate to dump that on a subcommittee of 3 people in a fairly short amount of time, I assume. Do we have an idea of what the timeline is?
Well, I hear your point, certainly. I think we would have to discuss very carefully how we could do that to avoid it being a discussion of the whole committee about the same item.
Right.
So that might be a tricky thing to try to carve up and make sure there's not overlap, but it may be possible. As far as timeline, there's some notion in my head that says like draft EIR later this fall, but I'm honestly not sure if that's
That's what they said.
okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was maybe mixing it up with something else or not remembering properly. So the reason that I thought we would want to start now is because it is a lot of work. And if we started first with the specific plan, which is available, then, you know, maybe we could get that piece basically done before the draft EIR comes out and could be moved on to at that point in time. But yes, very fair point. It is going to be a lot of work. So it is, you know, people who opt in to join the subcommittee, unless we are able to find ways to split that work out, would need to be folks who are able to really commit to diving in on that. I did see a hand from Mary a moment ago, if we can go there first.
We do have a subcommittee for the Baylands.
We have a
right.
representative
Yeah.
on a citywide, essentially. I
Oh.
believe there's council members and representatives from
I'm
other.
on that. So, so this is.
Right, but you are the only OSEC member on
Right.
that. And that group would not be providing, well, I don't know if that group is or is not providing public comments, but they would not be, you know, that would not be public comments from OSEC at that point in time, I wouldn't think.
I do agree with Glenn. I think we need to divvy it up. It's going to be a ton of work.
We spent over a year on the draft EIR for the Baylands when I first sat on the committee. And it was a massive amount of work to go through 6,000 pages of EIR, draft EIR. And Glenn and Barbara also were on the committee at that time. And it was, it took away from everything else we were doing for over a year. So I don't want it to be that onerous. And we did it all together. We had, I believe we split it up, didn't we?
No,
We all read everything.
we did it as OSEC.
Yeah,
I read that whole thing.
I did too. And it was not a fun year. I'm really not looking forward to doing that again at that level, especially when there are so many other things that we're working on. So if we can figure out a way to split it up, review the specific plan. What is the actual tasks you want us to do on that right now?
I mean, I think the question is really to you guys, but OSEC has expressed a desire to submit public comments on behalf of the committee. So I think review to me would mean reviewing the specific plan and identifying areas where you have questions, concerns, comments, and want to, put that forward as a body. Again, these are, you all still have the opportunity to submit your individual public comments as well.
So can I propose that for reviewing the specific plan? How many pages is it?
Oh, gosh.
450, I believe.
I was going to say, I don't even know. I actually haven't even opened it yet. I'm going to be totally honest.
450, so it's quite a bit shorter than the DEIR.
So
Thank God.
Yeah, my suggestion is that we each individually review this specific plan and come back at our next meeting with questions that we kind of talk about for the whole group, and that we limit the amount of time that we talk about those questions, but that we give our questions to you maybe 2 days before the meeting, and then you can distribute them to everybody and have us all look over them before we actually come together for the meeting. And then it'll give us a better idea of what we're up against and how we should divvy it up. And since the draft DIR is not going to be available for a while, it'll give us a chance to instead of trying to make a decision right now when none of us, I believe, have actually looked at the specific plan yet. I have a thumb drive in my purse I picked up tonight. Might be the best way to approach this to see what we're up against and see how much of what was in the EIR and the has been incorporated into the specific plan that maybe won't be as challenging to review as it was the first time around when we didn't really know what was going to be happening. Now we have a more clear picture of what they consider remediation to look like, what they consider, various things to look like.
So I do want to go. Barbara has had her hand up for a while. Thank you for your patience, Barbara.
Not my best strength, but I'm trying. So the specific plan is a little different than the EIR. It talks more about what they envision for the project and less about how it's the nuts and bolts on the ground, how it's going to be, how they're going to manage cleanup and stuff. They haven't gotten there yet. I think the most important thing to think about when reviewing this is what isn't included, because part of our job will be to frame questions for the DEIR, like what does the DEIR need to address? And I'm hoping we can all participate in the whole thing, but I think Michelle has a good idea. And as Glenn said, I don't have as much time as I had when we did the DEIR. I have more things in my life right now that I must attend to. So I think maybe Michelle has a good idea that we could all do kind of a high level skim of it before the next meet. Well, I don't know. That's going to eat up a pretty big chunk of our time, actually, if we don't.
Well, that was
and I would also have to say, Michelle, your idea of submitting comments to me 2 days before and me distributing them to everybody, that's not a timeline that's actually going to work. We're
I'm
going to
just
have
trying
to
to
have them
work where we have an idea what everyone is thinking about without violating the Brown Act. But I have envisioned this happening over 2 or 3 meetings. We bring our first round of questions to the next meeting, and then our next round of just, where are we at? Kind of skim it over the next 2 meetings and see what really needs to be done. And then we can either buckle down into subcommittees or,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know how else to approach it, because I think that it's important that we all look at it, because we all come from different perspectives and have different experience with the draft EIR, with the Baylands. Glenn, you and I all read the original draft EIR, but that doesn't mean, Mary and Aaron
know.
and Shauna and Jason also have.
They all deserve opportunities to be brilliant too.
Yeah. So I think that that's a good starting point, is for all of us to get familiar with it and at least read the table of contents, and then come back at the next meeting and say, okay, this is how we're going to approach the task.
I think we're going to have to get further on it than that.
Yeah.
I think we have to just, okay, so I'm just throwing this out there. This is a spitball moment. What if we decide we want to dedicate 3 meetings to it and we all read, 125 pages in the next month, and then another 125 pages the month after that? So basically, like, if we decide we want to break it up into 3 meetings, then we break the document up into thirds.
But isn't that
When
exactly
it-
the decision that, excuse me, that we're supposed to make at the next meeting?
Well, I thought that was a decision we were making today, how to tackle it. Or do you think, I just am concerned if we wait till next meeting, we've already lost a month.
Right.
Yeah, I am too. But on the other hand, we have 2 members who are not here.
That's true.
And, I'm not sure how we get them to, come along with whatever it is we decide and tell them, hey, you've got to read 125 pages
Yeah.
for next meeting.
Can I ask a set of questions?
Mm.
The specific plan is 450 pages is what I heard.
Yeah.
And public comment is due when?
Public comment, there's not actually a public comment on the specific plan deadline. Public comments on the specific plan would be submitted with the draft EIR. So those comments will not be due until maybe the end of the year at best, probably. We don't know exactly when that draft EIR is going to be released exactly, but like I said, I'm hearing maybe this fall. Typical EIR comment window is 60 days,
That
Yeah.
was 90 days.
90
60
days.
or 90. I hope they give us, well, I don't know.
I think the most important thing is, when do we have to submit a notice of preparation?
There will be a notice of preparation released. I don't know when that exactly will be. I think that would be, obviously, if the draft EIR is expected later in the year, I would expect the NOP to be, perhaps within the next couple of months. And those typically, I think, have more like a 30-day
Right.
comment
So
window.
that's the notice of preparation. Is everyone familiar with what that is? Where we have to draft the comments and questions of what we want the draft EIR to cover. And the NOP is extremely important.
Yeah. it's
And,
probably the
and
most
so we
important.
need to have our questions ready when the NOP opens. So that's a key date. And so we do need to start looking at the specific plan as soon as possible to be able to see the holes of the things that we think need to be covered, besides all the standard stuff in the draft EIR.
Mary, you were next.
So I kind of agree, we need to jump on it and start looking at it and divvy it up, not divvy it up, but take the first 125 pages and dedicate the next 3 or 4 meetings to the review, consolidated review. But that means we need to be okay with not getting anything else done, because this is going to take up a lot of time.
So I would like to say that everything we have just discussed as the committee also would work as a discussion for a subcommittee. The problem goes back to the first comment, which is who's got time to do any of this? I like the idea of bite-sized chunks,
Yeah.
but I'm not, what I'm hearing is trepidation about that work. And then secondly, we should all be doing this as citizens anyway. So I need to review it so that I can make my public comments. So in that way, it seems like I might as well be on a committee if I'm going to be doing it anyway. And then I think about what my schedule is, and I can't imagine it happening.
So I think that we all need to do a quick overview of the whole plan, all 450 pages. I'm not suggesting you should read it in detail. I'm suggesting, you kind of get familiar with it. A lot of it is going to be familiar for some of us from the EIR. And then at the next meeting, we dedicate a chunk of that time to determine how we're going to chew it up and get those NOP questions out there. And in the meanwhile, while you're doing that pre-read, everybody can, jot down some notes and everything. And then in next meeting, we actually have a chunk of time on the agenda that we work specifically on how we're going to approach it and then go from there. And we'll know, people will be able to make a better informed decision if they're able to be on the subcommittee, or if we even are going to do it by using ad hoc subcommittees, or if we're going to set aside a chunk of time each month to work through the sections. Does that sound like a plan?
I'm okay with that.
Barb?
Two thoughts. One is that I would like staff to find out from legal if we could break it up by chapters. I'm not sure that that's the route we would want to go, but I think if we're dedicating a month to figuring out how we're going to do this, that will be a critical question to have an answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that we can have more than one meeting a month. So we could just meet in like 2 weeks or something for like a half-hour meeting to just discuss this, if that's what we need to do in order to not lose a whole month. I don't think anybody's going to be on board with that, but it is out there.
It might be helpful to see the calendar if we could.
Was that for the full committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do that.
But can we televise it? Can we have this room and can we televise it? We're not sure.
We're not sure. And it's a question.
Sorry, mic's not on. I think aren't there meetings in here most Wednesdays now? Park and Rec and Complete Streets and IDEA.
I didn't think it was
all
going to
meet on
fly, but
Wednesdays.
we have done more than one meeting a month at times in the past, particularly during the DEIR to get through stuff. So it's there.
Could we see the calendar maybe just to see what's on our plate for the next few months?
Oh, the committee calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One sec. You all see that?
Okay, thank you.
It will be a little bit better if I do this.
Oh, yeah. That will definitely be a little better.
Doesn't look that bad, actually, at least not through June.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think dark skies is probably the only thing that,
The big one, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think everything else, summer hike habitat restoration meeting. We've done that in June. In the past couple of years, we could potentially do it in July. It's not necessarily must do, but it is a nice to do.
The invasive species subcommittee is going to get cranked up again, but it kind of depends on when Karen can give us an estimate of cost to the city. Karen, do you have any idea when that might happen? The council seemed to want us to get after that. But we're really kind of waiting for that. So I was wondering, do you have any idea when that might show up?
Momentarily, like probably this, can you guys hear me? Probably this week. When I took the contractors out, we found that there were some, they had some questions and the maps needed to be refined but
So we may have that
momentarily.
to deal with too, then.
Do you guys think that we may need more than 3 months? I think we will, to go through the document and then
Yeah.
formulate all of our concerns and questions. I do. I think it's going to take longer than 3 months. But with that suggestion, looking at the calendar, it looks like we could probably push some of the stuff June, July.
So if I may, one of the reasons that I was suggesting an ad hoc subcommittee is because it is then much easier to meet more frequently. It does put the burden of the work onto a small group rather than everyone. However, them bringing their work back to the full committee would provide an opportunity for the other members of the committee who, having independently looked at the specific plan or NOP or whatever particular piece we're talking about the comments on, would be able to review what the subcommittee had done and add anything that they had come up with independently. This is just kind of putting it out there. If timing is part of that was part of my suggestion for the subcommittee, is in thinking about timing and other work that needs to be done. I understand that it does put the burden on a small group. That is a big challenge.
So I think that we're not ready to form subcommittees yet. And I think the question that we had about forming multiple subcommittees to attack this, we'll have a better idea at our next meeting.
Yeah.
People will have a better idea of what subcommittee they want to be on. We can have a team coordinator or subcommittee coordinator that checks in with each group, just sort of break it out that way. But we don't know yet, without going through what we have, what we need to focus on and where we are best suited, each person is best suited to work on it. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have subcommittees. I'm saying we shouldn't have one subcommittee. We should have multiple subcommittees once we know how we're going to break it out. Because
At
otherwise
least
we won't
two.
get it done. And it's too much burden for any one or two or three people to do. So until we know that, and by next meeting, we should be able to flesh that out by next meeting, we can do it. And as far as the summer hike habitat restoration meeting, that's the second, we could have a second meeting that month because it's not going to be televised anyway. So we don't need to worry about using this room for that. That would be fun to do. But I don't think it would necessarily take the place of a regular meeting if we have so much stuff, so much work that we need to do on this. My feelings.
I agree that skimming it and thinking about ways to divide the work into two probably subcommittees is smart, because I can imagine, the open space versus the residential and commercial. We do it by chapters, but I haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
And based just on the meetings I've been going to, I'm not ready to say what a balanced and easily severable workload could be.
Yeah, it could even be 3 subcommittees. I think it will be.
Assuming legal permits us.
Well, I don't think that they have a judgment call on subcommittees, do they?
Well, remember, you can't address the work of OSEC outside of a public meeting with groups of more than 3.
I understand
So
that.
if you are all working on the same thing, you can't all be working on the same thing in
It depends on
separate
how,
subcommittees
it
unless
depends
you
on how
are.
legal defines thing.
Yes.
Like,
No, we know how to
so-
do it. We break up and this subcommittee takes this thing, this subcommittee takes this one takes this one. And the only time we discuss it amongst the subcommittees is when we're here.
Right. I hear your suggestion, but I think Barbara is correct that we need to talk with legal to make sure that what we're suggesting is going to fly with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's rational for them to be able to consider these different chapters separate things, but legal isn't always rational. They have rights to be obstinate when they want to be.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that sounds good. Let's all skim it. And I assume we'll be able to get an answer from legal by the next meeting, right?
I would expect so.
And
And
when-
we'll just hope that they give us a sensible answer that lets us divvy up the work but not talk about it with each other until we're assembled as a whole committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't read these documents. Are they on the website?
Yes.
And you can also get a thumb drive from Carolyn.
I think they have hard copies at the desk too.
Oh, I would
Instead of-
love a hard copy. Can we
Yeah,
get them
midnight.
tonight?
Likewise.
There's a hard copy here. There's a hard copy at the library. I don't know if they have any take-home hard copies.
Oh,
You might
got
have
it.
to ask for that.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, they may only be distributing. It's long. They might only be distributing it at PDF. I might have been mistaken about the copy in City Hall is just a reference. copy
Adrian,
in
I can
City
tell
Hall.
you if I got a hard copy, it would go a lot easier for me.
It's a lot of pages.
I
At
know,
450 pages, yeah.
I know Nancy Laxmana asked for a hard copy for the visitation library and and UPC that's no longer UPC is going to provide that one. So if you contact UPC that's not UPC.
BDI,
yeah,
I think is their
um,
name.
they might run you off one when they're running one for visitation. Because, you know, I agree when you're dealing with things like this, having a physical reference is much easier.
Well, yeah, and you could take notes in it and then
Mhm.
it
You
just,
could take notes in a PDF too.
I am on the computer 9 hours a day
I
now.
understand.
I really don't want to do this on a computer if I can help it because my eyeballs are falling out of my head. So that's my problem. But I'd really like to be able to use paper
Mhm.
to do this. So if I can get a paper copy, I very much appreciate it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that at this
Yeah.
time. I
It-
think
it won't
Barbara's
go to
suggestion
waste.
of asking BDI is probably a good one.
I'm going to vote we move on.
Okay.
Oh, do we have to make a motion or a vote on this being agendized for the next meeting and that we have 450 pages of homework?
I don't believe you do.
Excellent. Let's move on. Next item is the
one more
divestment
question.
Oh,
resolution.
Glenn has one more question.
Oh, sorry, Len.
Will the other members of OSEC be notified about their homework? Is there some way we can do that?
I guess I can let them know unless someone else would like to be the bearer of that wonderful news to the people who are on vacation right
Feels
now.
like a chair job, doesn't it? I'll do it.
Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next new business is consider resolution of support for SB 252 requiring CalPERS and CalSTRS to divest from fossil fuels.
I will be glad to speak to that if you like.
Please.
So we've been here before, specifically a year ago, last year. We considered an almost identical resolution for SB 1173, which was the first legislative attempt to force the California State Personnel Retirement System and the California State Teachers Retirement System to sell off their fossil fuel stocks. The committee passed that resolution and the council also passed it. The bill last year made it all the way through the California State Senate and was killed by one committee chair in the California State Assembly. So Senator Lena Gonzalez, who's from the Los Angeles area, agreed this year to introduce the bill again with a new number. It's now SB 252. And we are trying to do exactly the same thing. The relevance of this to the city of Brisbane is that most cities, including this one, do not administer their own retirement funds. Rather, the money that is subtracted from employee paychecks and supplied also by the city as employer is invested by CalPERS. And CalPERS, the state personnel system, which I also belong to, by the way, as an employee of San Francisco State University. CalPERS still holds somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 billion of fossil fuel investments, including investments in the bad guys such as Exxon and Chevron, et cetera. We have, when I say we, I'm referring to Fossil Free California, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. We have dogged CalPERS footsteps for years. We have attended meetings of their board and meetings of their investment committee. We have commissioned studies that, and there's actually a lot of literature on this now, showing that fossil-free funds, which are quite diverse otherwise, do as well or better than funds with fossil fuel equities and bonds in them. And so we feel that this is quite consistent with CalPERS' responsibility as a fiduciary, which means that they're responsible to keep the best interests of the retirees in mind when they invest money. CalPERS just really seems stuck in a rut. They've repeated the same tired arguments over and over. They've said, well, it's very important to have a diverse investment fund. We have pointed out that removing fossil fuels does not de-diversify their investment fund by a substantial amount. They have complained about transaction costs, which that is the cost of selling off the stocks and bonds and fossil fuels that it holds. We think their investment, or their estimate of those costs is highly inflated. Their major underlying argument seems to be that requiring them to divest from fossil fuels is going to lose them money. And that just does not appear to be true despite high oil prices and stock prices this year. Oil prices and gas prices have already gone down from their peak. So we just think it's the right thing to do. And the effects of climate change on the rest of their portfolio seem to us a much more important thing to worry about. So I respectfully request your support for this year's resolution in support of SB 252. Happy to answer any questions if I can.
I have no questions.
I have a
Goodness.
statement. I think when we voted on the previous bill, it was my first meeting, and I was concerned about losing a seat at the table, because I know that CalPERS and CalSTRS were, trying to work to get more board members working on sustainability and whatnot. So I abstained from that vote. And then I've got two more comments before I'm done. When Brisbane City Council voted to not approve, that's not the right word, support the bill, I was very proud of my little city. And since then, I've been kind of paying attention to what's going on, and I don't think CalPERS and CalSTRS are doing as much as they could with their seats on the boards, and so I plan to support this one. Thank you, Glenn, for bringing it back to the.
Thanks for that. Yeah, the whole question of, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the funds bring it up all the time and say, well, as stockholders, we can engage with the corporations. Well, unfortunately, over the past year, they've been engaged. They are stockholders, and they have not supported resolutions urging the companies to, sort of think about a non-fossil free future and to think about investing in renewables and things like that. We have been critics for a long time. That when I say we, I'm referring to Fossil Free California. We've been critics for a long time of the fund's claims that engagement is going to work, because engagement may well work in certain situations, like when you're urging a company to, say, improve its labor practices, or urging a company to diversify its management. But the problem here is that oil and gas are the fossil fuel companies' core business. And so how much, they're obviously not willing, and they're probably not able to pivot from spending trillions of dollars exploring for oil, building huge extraction platforms, building huge refineries and things like that, to installing windmills. It doesn't make sense. These companies have been around for a long time, and oil and gas are their business, and they clearly are sticking to that. So engagement has produced very little in the way of results, and even less this year, much to our dismay. They've at least in the past made more noises about doing the right thing, but now they seem not even to be doing that. BP, I believe it was, abandoned some of the renewables work that it had earlier done. So they're about oil and gas, and that's not there's no point in blaming them for that. That's just what they're about. And they're not going to turn into wind and solar companies. That's not their expertise. It's not who their people are. They don't really know that business.
So I move that we accept this. Or did you? Oh,
I mean, I just have a comment. I totally support going through with this, but I just want to make a comment on CalPERS, who's ever doing their investments. I'm assuming it's internally on fossil fuel investments. I mean, they don't need to take, I mean, they talk about high fees. It's going to cost us money to divest, which is a crock, because they can ladder that out, right? Some of these investments are 30, 90 days, whatever the case is, you know, slowly but surely they can get out of that. So the high cost of getting out of those investments just doesn't make sense to me. So, but totally support.
so is that a
Going forward.
second, Mary?
Pardon me?
Is that a second to my motion?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Motion passes
Tough crowd
unanimously.
here.
Yeah, really. So one question, when do you think the council might take this up?
I have to double check, but I'm hopeful that we might be able to get it on perhaps even the next agenda. I think honestly, they've already passed this before, so I'm going to ask that they put it on the consent agenda, perhaps for their next meeting, unless for some reason it's too full or we can't get it on there, but I would expect it should be able to move forward pretty quickly.
Fabulous, thanks.
Adrian, I've been reading the agenda. I just realized you do that on the Zoom, so I don't need to do this, do I? Going through the agenda items. Is that the chair's job or is that your job?
I advance the slides, but typically the chair is the one who should be moving the meeting forward.
Very good. Well, let's move on to staff updates.
Absolutely. I have a few. I have a few that I will save for subcommittee things. But a couple quick ones here. I've been talking about the EV chargers. I think you probably all saw the Mission Blue and City Hall ones are complete and available for your use. Bayshore construction, we are expecting to start up in April, probably April 3rd, assuming the weather clears out as it looks like it might. But those chargers won't be available until PG&E completes a service upgrade. We're still waiting for them to give us a timeline for their part of the work on that. Just working to finish up some grant reporting for these other two sites, which hopefully will be done in the next, maybe by the end of the week, maybe shortly thereafter. Yes, Barbara.
Is the one at the mall up or it's still down?
The one at the Brisbane Village will not be coming back unless or until I can get it replaced. And we do not currently have funding for that. So we will have to, at this point in time, it looks like probably request funding in the next budget cycle for that. It will be up to the council to decide if that is a priority. Unfortunately, I have not yet found any grant of all the EV charging grant applications that are out there, which are many. None of them want to fund replacement chargers, which I have talked with multiple folks in positions of deciding what kind of things get funding to tell them that I think that that is a very big mistake because there is a growing problem of defunct chargers, especially fast chargers, and it does not make anyone have a lot of faith that they will be able to successfully charge a vehicle. So that's my little soapbox on that. I'm still trying. I'm still looking at all of the opportunities to make sure. I will put in a request in the next budget cycle and hope we can get something out there sooner than later.
So if we just back a really big car over it and knock it down entirely, then can we get a new one?
Not the first person to suggest that. And I honestly, I doubt it.
Hoping
I
you
don't-
just falls on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. Glenn, did you have another question or?
I was just going to ask if the Inflation Reduction Act funding was available yet? Has it hit yet?
I don't think generally most of that is available yet. There are some state funding and some Infrastructure and Jobs Act funding sources that are starting to become available.
Okay.
One of the next things that I was going to talk about was a grant application that we are working on. That's actually a state grant. But I don't think most of the Inflation Reduction Act grants and, the incentives for individuals, those are not out yet. From my understanding, most of those are probably not going to be available until the end of the year or early next year.
Really?
That said, I do want to make sure that I'm not confusing anybody too much. The tax credits are available already. So if you are installing solar or batteries or other things that are eligible for tax credits, those are available the start of this year. So go forth. Yes, buying an EV. Yeah, my understanding is all the tax credits are available. None of the rebates are available yet.
So I was just wondering if that might give us a chance to replace that.
It's
That charger.
possible. It's possible. Yeah,
Too early to tell. Okay.
depends how they write all of the details, which is what's happening now of what's eligible and what's not and how it's going to be doled out. Yeah, the devil is in the details for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. Because it was passed last summer. I thought it would be starting to.
It's a lot of money. And it's got a lot of it going through states. So like the CEC will be writing the rules for certain pieces of the funding for California. And yeah, so it's coming. And I think we all wish it was here faster.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Yes. As I noted, I am working on a grant application for climate adaptation planning. That's a state grant through the Office of Planning and Research. That is one that would help us to compile existing vulnerability analyses for the city and also potentially supplement them as needed. Although there's actually been a lot of regional work done that covers Brisbane, so we may not need to supplement too much. But the bigger effort would be writing that plan with community input. The grant requires having community partners, and I'm very pleased to say that San Bruno Mountain Watch has agreed to partner with us. I am cautiously optimistic that I have at least one other community partner. I had a very promising conversation. I'm waiting on confirmation back. And should we be awarded the grant, we are writing in the ability to engage additional community partners. There was just only so much time to reach out to other organizations and try to start those partnerships. So fingers crossed, that application is due next week. So trying to pull it all together and they'll be making awards apparently in June. Very fast for a state grant. And then the other big thing that we have been working on is building efficiency program. The benchmarking reporting link for this year is ready, and I should be having it, should have it out the door maybe tomorrow by the end of the week. We also are still working on some of the beyond benchmarking work, which starts for the first cohort this year. That should be rolling out in early April, hopefully, the audit template and some other pieces of that. And then we actually have an ordinance amendment in the works, a few kind of cleanup items that we've discovered as we were kind of getting more into the nuts and bolts of the beyond benchmarking phase, certain metrics that we wrote in that aren't readily available and kind of more clarity on the timeline. So I'm working on, Rachel and I have been working on that. And I'm also hoping to get that to council very soon.
Oh, will that come to us or no?
Honestly, no, it's like a couple of sentences or phrases here or there. It's not particularly substantive. It's not really changing the way we would administer, but really making sure that the way we would plan to administer the program actually matches what it says in the ordinance. So hadn't planned to. And then the last thing I was going to note is I've mentioned we've done some notices of violation and citations for SB 1383 compliance. We have been whittling the number of non-compliant addresses down. I think we are down to 26 remaining in town as of today, which seems like a nice small number, but it has been a lot of communication with sometimes confused members of the public wondering, what is this thing that I got? So that's it for me. Did you have a question?
Yeah, how are we doing with getting a replacement habitat company to work on the work plan for the habitat?
We're getting a proposal from Hanford ARC. When we were trying to do the Guadalupe Channel Erosion Control Project, they were the low bidder and they worked with us quite a bit to try to get through the California Fish and Wildlife permit, which we weren't able to do with the design that we had. I don't know if you remember all of that.
Oh, yeah, over here on by the firehouse.
Right.
Yeah.
So they come with a lot of experience and highly recommended. So trying to see if they can be qualified to just take it over for us versus going out to bid and finding someone that maybe doesn't have as much experience, but can, could still bid on it. So trying to see if we can sole source with them like we kind of had the precedent with Shelter Belt and On Point Land Management.
Mhm. And did On Point Land Management have any recommendations for us, or do we ask them?
I think they just said that we should ask the county. And I think there were a couple of names from the county that's been, when did he break with us last summer, right?
Before last summer, actually. Yeah. Okay. I'm concerned that we get somebody soon before things really continue to pile up, so to speak.
Yeah,
This is
definitely.
for where we maintain the acres that are in open space.
Just wanted to ask Adriana if you'd heard anything from the county about addressing the pampas grass and the gorse, which is taking over the south side of Guadalupe Canyon Road. It's downhill from all the gorse on the north side. It's jumped the road now. And, we've been hearing that the county is going to get after it. I was out on Quarry Road when some county biologists happened to be out there taking a hike, and I bugged them about it, but nothing seems to happen. I just wondered if you'd heard anything.
I don't think we've had a natural resources meeting since the last, because they only happen quarterly. So I don't think we've had a meeting since the last time that we talked about it. I can try to follow up with I think they had an update and talked about different projects that were planned in San Bruno Mountain. I don't have all the details in front of me, but that I can check the minutes and they may say something there, or if not, maybe I can just follow up with someone from that committee and ask if they can give me an update on those projects specifically by email.
Just bugging them would be good because the gorse and the pampas grass are really taking over on one part of Guadalupe Canyon, and it's just ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
I do
Longer you
recall
wait?
that they talked about both of those, and I seem to remember something about gorse, them saying that there were areas where they had treated before and they needed to go back and do the same area again, and that was in their plans. They had talked about different timelines for different projects. Obviously they can't do everything all at once, and then also some species they were really trying to target a specific time period. And then I think it was with pampas grass that they were talking about, really prioritizing areas where it would be more wind blown versus other areas, to try to limit the spread.
Well, that area seems pretty windy to me, so.
Well, it is a concern because they want to modify, there's a move afoot to modify the HCP to allow more takes. And we lost severe acreage already in the 3 landslides. And, they have to maintain 1,200 acres of grassland habitat. And they're having a challenge with that. And so they're trying to change the HCP. And I'm very much opposed to that. So we need to pay attention.
the main area that I'm talking about where the gorse is taking over is actually in the park. It's not.
I know that's still
Okay.
part of the HCP
Okay.
and it's still part of the habitat. That's why we have a habitat manager. That's why the county is the habitat manager. So yeah, it's relevant, very relevant.
Okay. the biologist I talked to said she would follow up, but I don't know how much clout she has.
Do you know who you spoke with?
No, I don't. I should have gotten her name. I was just out there walking around and with a friend, and county truck pulled up, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to go talk to him about pampas grass." So and gorse. So I did, and you know, she got it. She understood it. She said she would follow up. I hope she did, but I didn't. You know, I couldn't have written anything down. I didn't have a pen or anything.
It wasn't Hannah, was it? With the long blonde hair?
She did have long hair, but it was more brown, I think, than blonde.
Any other staff updates? Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports. Do you want me to run through them?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Actually, on events, do you have any?
Do I have that?
Yeah, nice. Okay.
That is going to be in the April Star and probably out in the Blast, maybe even this week. And yeah, Earth Day is coming up in
So
a
explain
month exactly from today.
Can you explain the location for everybody?
Yeah, so it's listed as, my mic's on, yeah. Sorry. It feels very so Rock Wren Lane is actually up by the end of Checker Spot. So we're actually meeting at the end, right there at the end of Checker Spot by Rock Wren Lane. We'll have the table set up and we'll be heading off from there. There's a trailhead that goes up into the Northeast Ridge. So folks who have been hiking out there before or came to our February planting day, it's going to be, you know, basically the same meeting spot, relatively similar location.
So are we going to be pulling broom or what? Are we going up onto Clippy Hill, or are we doing it kind of right there where there's a lot of broom, or what? Do you know what the plan is?
I don't know exactly. I know that I imagine that we'll probably be fanning out and addressing all of the invasives that we can within that area. You know, I usually leave those details to Ariel.
Okay. It'd be really nice if everybody on the committee came. The last time I was the only one.
Unfortunately, I happen to have had a conflict for the last one, and I'm going to have a conflict for this one. So
Okay. Well,
sorry.
and bring your friends.
Yeah.
I'll try to.
I'll be there.
Good. And have we set a date for the summer one?
No,
Okay.
I'm working on stuff that's due next week.
Okay.
Talk to me
I
about
just-
summer stuff next month. I have an update for the next subcommittee too. So I'm working with Teresa from South San Francisco Scavenger on the OSEC library display. The next item on our list was waste related. And around the time that I was starting to work on it, Teresa happened to reach out to me and say, "Hey, are you behind that display at the library? Can we get in on that?" Perfect timing. So these are the draft posters, which we will be putting up. You can see the one is focused on methane gas and how rotting food contributes to climate change because of methane in the landfill. And then the second is on common compost contaminants. So things to keep out of your green bin. This was things that, this is a very big concern to Scavenger as they are putting items into the digester and seeing a lot of contamination. Teresa also has created a very cute little kid handout with Aussie on it, with like word search and pledge. It's really cute. So we'll have some of those handout take homes for the kids. And then we'll also have the organics stickers that you can put on your bins, and a handout that just can be a take home for adults that reminds you what actually goes in your green bin. So I've been in touch with the library. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me to let me know when they'll have the materials, the library materials pull to change out the shelf.
How about big googly eyes to make Ozzy as cute as he is here?
I'm down with googly eyes
Googly eyes, wait, where?
on the poster.
Giveaways for kids.
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry, I'll quit.
Put 'em
I'll
on
quit
the
joking. I'm
poster.
getting us off topic.
I might have some at home.
Back to subcommittee updates.
No, back to googly eyes.
Oh, that's cool.
that's not cool. There we go.
Anything else on events? Anything else on education and outreach? The Baylands Subcommittee.
No meetings.
I
There
just
you go.
want to, this is not really the subcommittee, but UPC has had 2 introductory sessions for their Baylands specific plans. So I hope many members of the public attended that. But if you didn't, you missed it. Sorry.
They recorded. Will they share that with the?
Yes, actually, I think they did say that there would be a way to view the meeting. And if I happen to, that happens to come across my desk, I'll post it on Facebook and make sure and send it to Adrian so that the committee can see it.
Thank you.
Or she may even, it may even go direct to you.
I was gonna say, I would be surprised if Caroline wouldn't have that and be sharing it,
Yep.
to be honest.
Yeah.
She's usually on top of those kind of things.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to building decarbonization.
Well, we haven't met, which is partially because I was out of town and then very busy with some of the other staff update kind of items. But there have been a couple of very interesting meetings lately through RICAPS and CPUC and other groups. There's been a lot of talk about lately and a lot of kind of shifting focus from individual appliance conversion to zonal decarbonization and how we can really scale up. So it's been very fascinating. I think when we are able to meet again, we'll have a lot to talk about. Some new kind of plans in the works from Peninsula Clean Energy that, should they all pan out, I think are going to be really supportive towards our efforts and just generally. So very exciting stuff in the works, and we can try to meet in the next month if you guys feel like you have the bandwidth. I may be, as I said, after the next week, I may be kind of freeing up a little bit more time if you want to try to get together.
I would like to.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Open space plan update. We did have a meeting and Mary's going to give us an update.
So we met on Friday, March the 3rd, Shauna, Michelle and I, and kind of skimmed through the open space plan. I had a partial copy of it, and we went through areas that would be our next focus in updating. Those areas will either be the Sierra Point sub area or the Northwest Bayshore. And as we were going through the document, we realized that we probably need an updated one, soft copy with the prior revisions that were put forth and approved by council regarding the metrics used for the acres. So we would like to get a soft copy of that, and then we will meet again and start jotting down the specifics of whatever area we decide to focus on.
And I did get your email, so I know that I owe you that. It prompted me to note and think that when I was looking at this next, let's call him a consultant to manage the acres, that, and I don't know if you guys, I don't have the map in front of me, so it's hard to maybe be specific, but there were a couple of small properties. If you go up to the end of Paul and you go up the Fire Road, right at the end before it hairpins back, that are like lot 79, I think was the number. There, before I was the staff involved, the city bought those acres too, even though they were outside of the yellow line. So I'd wish that we had in our update all thought about that and asked that the yellow line included those. So I think I might try to go back to council and draw those in because we own them, so they should be part of it. But that's just a little side note. So let me work on getting you that soft copy.
They're way on the edge. Of the-
Right,
Yeah, like
right.
79 and 80.
Right.
Yeah, might as well update as you, update the plan itself. Thank you.
Is Bob still doing maps for us then?
Yeah, he is still.
Okay, good. Well, you're up again. Crocker Trail Frog
Oh,
Habitat.
The frog habitat, I don't know if any of our members have walked that, but it's looking really nice. And it's all because of Paul Buscal. And I think Jason's been out there as well. I know all of the debris was removed. I think I brought that up last meeting. So Shauna had sent an email saying, oh, it's gone, which is good. So I don't know if Paul's planted anything there yet in that corner. I don't know. But in order for us to get official areas of interest for that, the frog habitat, we're waiting on the consultant to get back to us. And last meeting, that was still to be determined. So I'm not sure where we are with that.
So we did hear back from the RCD staff. They are proceeding with the work. There is an anticipated staffing change. So their plan is to try to get us the deliverables, by June with that going on.
I'm concerned about weed abatement. That's one of the things we wanted them to consult with us on. I know I'm not on the subcommittee anymore, but it's still a concern. And so if we could at least get some guidance on that, even before they complete the report, we may be able to forestall, frog slaughter.
That's definitely in their scope, but if we're not to that point, I think we could do what we did last year with fire and have them not send the notice to that business owner so that weed abatement doesn't happen out there.
Well,
that's
and
what-
also inform the business owner.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right.
Because on the city side, we don't even touch it anymore.
I know, but they do.
Right.
Okay. And they may have it on their radar to just do it, and we don't want them to do that.
But I think that we coordinated with fire and they kept them from doing it last year because
Okay.
we were trying to kick off this consultant process.
Yeah.
So we should expect project outline from the consultants by June.
I mean, I think we already have the scope of work.
Oh, okay.
We're expecting them to complete the deliverables, the best management practices and guidelines
Okay.
by
Okay.
June.
Yeah, they said they should be able to kick off this month.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the document that you sent. Let's get them in here and get it done. That's what I'm trying to say. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was, it's been a couple months and they had staffing issues. So now they say they're ready to go.
They've also been
Final.
doing a lot of storm response. So I think that
Yeah,
they had mentioned
totally
that was,
understand.
they weren't able to get started as soon as they had originally planned because of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Karen, you gave us a little update earlier on the invasive species status. Is there anything else to add?
No, I think we should, when we have that, we should set the next meeting. There were I didn't realize how much when you look at Crocker Trail that we own up those slopes pretty far. I can't give you a number, but it's like at least 30 feet on each side. So I don't know where that cost is going to come in, but that was a factor that we needed to decide how to set up, that the city properties do the same as the residential, as the commercial, as all the public ones. So when we have that, we should have the next meeting.
Right. There's so many different ways to skin that, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be by what the zoning or the ownership of the land is. It could be the scale of the project, right? So.
Yeah.
We do need to get going though, especially right now. because everything is blooming.
Oh my God, with all that rain, it's gonna be nuts this year.
Yep.
And not to mention the fact that a lot of that area that you were just talking about, Karen, is high fire hazard. As we saw last year with that fire that happened behind Hensley. Stuff is a torch.
Yeah, no, I'm worried. Okay, moving on to dark skies.
We don't have anything. I mean, we met the last meeting, so I think we should just,
I do want to give Michelle a nudge. Please fill out the doodle poll so I can get the meeting on the calendar.
You know, I'd love to do that. And I didn't realize it was out there because it went to the Microsoft email. And I went to the Microsoft email and I didn't see it. And I'm just not familiar with the Microsoft stuff very much. I have like 4 different email things to check. So I
Well,
saw it. and
Those
I
are
don't
the
pay more.
emails that we will be using going forward.
I
so.
understand that. And I did look, I obviously read the minutes today, you know, once I realized, oh, there was a meeting tonight. So yeah, it just hasn't been on my radar to go there and look all the time. So, and when I do go, it's very,
I botched one Sierra Point meeting a while ago because
yeah,
I forgot to check my city emails, which, yeah.
I
And
can
then
assure you.
Aaron has a way to set it up, but.
Yeah, please. It's not user friendly
Mhm.
at all. So
Invite
sorry.
me over for coffee. I'll set it up for you.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, we should have a workshop here for all the city employees. Sorry, tree
Oh, I
issues.
just have Outlook on my phone. It works perfectly fine.
Oh, I'm not putting it on my phone. Tree issues.
Oh, well, we need to have a tree issue meeting. And there's a lot of tree issues going on right now. A lot. I'm so exhausted from hearing buzzsaws all day long. I did call the JIC to make sure the buzzsaws that I was hearing had a permit, but I am concerned that we're going to lose a lot of our urban canopy this year with all that's happened, and people are afraid, and the trees are getting butchered, and some with just cause and some with not. So, let's schedule a meeting, Karen. Another fun meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Or we can meet and draft stuff out and then go from there. Kind of get a framework again, bring everybody back up to speed.
Yeah, if you want to, that's fine.
Yeah.
It is a downer of a topic for sure.
Yeah, I have to confess the meeting
It's
that I had
still
with Mary and Shauna, I thought was the tree meeting, and I didn't even bring my book with me. Yeah, okay. Onward and upward.
Sierra Point Park Planning.
Before we go on to that, can I just confirm you were going to meet without Karen? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, that's fine with me, yeah. Just somebody's got to do a doodle poll or something so we can all pick a date or whatever.
You're all
Or-
here in person. Open your calendars
Well,
before I
when
go home.
Shauna's not here.
Oh,
When
you're
is
right.
she?
She's not.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
soon as she gets
She's on
back.
vacation.
So we'll just have to do that via email so we can include Shauna.
Sierra Point,
Sierra Point.
Barbara.
Nothing's happened on that.
Oh, lots happened on that.
What did I miss in my email probably?
Oh, just all of the brouhaha and making sure that everybody has their,
Oh, yeah, there was a little like a little pitch fit on social media. Yeah, I forgot about that. Somebody saying that there was no opportunity for public input, and I think somebody was like, yeah, there was public input this day, this date, and this day. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I think sometimes people think just because they missed the memo that it didn't happen.
And they probably
My
missed the memo because
impressions,
they didn't
yeah.
want to read the 450-page document, which I'm going back to the Baylands. I need to read it, so. Lippman Science Fair judging.
All done. the certificates were printed by Adrian. Thank you. And I framed them and delivered them to the school. So they were very appreciative.
Was it a good year for science?
Was there
Pardon me?
anything good this
Was it a
year?
good year?
Yeah, it was a good year. You know, there's not a lot of ecology focused projects. So it was kind of tough to pick 3 of them, but they were related somehow. I actually chose 4. I went outside of the norm, and there was a 6th grade project that was, she deserved an award. And anyway, I went ahead and did that. So I talked to Bob Detmer about trying to get climate change as part of the science fair, and you know, he said, you know, the kids are really frightened by climate change, and they want to kind of steer away from that because that's
Wow.
old, you know, it's freaking them out. So I said, okay, I totally get it. So anyway, I tried.
Yeah, I mean, when we started doing the science fair, it was originally part of our goal to be, originally we were involved earlier in the process of actually trying to promote ecology-based projects. I feel like the school isn't really giving us that opportunity to,
I think there's a certain curriculum they need to follow.
yeah.
And that's what
I
they're
mean, I
doing.
think people can choose their own projects, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Lippman has been kind of resistant to working with us, and that's been pretty consistent as long as
Yeah.
I've been on this committee.
Yeah.
But everyone there, they were very, very supportive. And, you know, I gave a little blurb when I met with the judges on what we look for, and took it from there. But, you know, the kids get a nice, you know, the projects that the top 3, top 4 were noticed, and certificates were provided. So thank you.
Do you remember what the projects were?
I do. I took a few pictures. Let me see if I still have them. Yeah, it's in my email. Let's see. Okay. Leyden jar capacitance, and it was about electricity and power. There was another one about soil. Let me see if I can find the name. How evaporation affects different soil types. And then there was another one, keeping it cool. And that was about heat. So I thought those were probably the most relevant. And then there was the 6th grade project, which really didn't have anything to do with ecology. But the kid, she was a cartoonist. I'm not kidding. She is gifted. And I think her dad sits on one of the committees for the city of Brisbane. I think Sewell was her last name. And she was so detailed with all the vocabulary and how to understand her project. That was Ames chair, is about illusion, and not ecology again, but she needed to be commended for the great work that she did. And it was just fantastic. Anyway, so I made the decision to give her a certificate as well. So anyway,
Good decision.
yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
That's it. Can I make a suggestion based on the number of subcommittee meetings that have happened this calendar year? That next year in December, we put subcommittee meeting events, we schedule in December for January. Because it's March and it feels like a pretty dry year.
Yeah.
It's the only place it's been
remember
dry.
that in December, but if I say it now, maybe somebody will. Does that seem reasonable?
Mhm.
Okay. I know you're very busy right now, Adrian. So I'm not trying to give you work right now. I'm trying to give all of us work in December. Thank you.
So we've already looked at the calendar a little bit, but here it is again. I will confess, one of the things that had been on the calendar for this month was the compost giveaway, and it did not pop up on my radar until I was getting slides ready for this meeting. So I bumped it to April, and it is now on my to-do list to reach out to Teresa, who I think I email with about 16 times a day, and be in touch with her about when we can get that going.
I think people were too busy with the sandbag giveaway.
Yeah, I was
think
gonna say,
compost giveaway probably wouldn't have been a good.
might have,
for
it might
it.
be
rolled
better
down
that
my
we didn't
hill
have it
already,
yet
had
anyway.
compost out.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually gardeners are ready to go in March, but I think this year
Yeah.
it's going to be April
Yeah.
before people are really out in their.
I know usually by now I have my tomatoes planted and my earth boxes and no, it's just a mess. Everything's a mess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Glenn?
No wonder the kids are afraid of climate change. I am too.
Oh, actually, I was going to make a comment on that. Action is the best antidote.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is, and yet sometimes it seems insurmountable.
I know. Glenn.
I was just going to ask, I'm looking at the star articles column, and I'm just wondering if we need to do maybe more star articles. We can revisit certain subjects like dark skies, like invasive species, things like that. Do we have space in the star every month, or how does that work?
We don't have an assigned space. There might be a different number of pages in a given month, depending on how much the content is submitted. And sometimes things shrink or expand accordingly. So, I mean, if we ask to put something in, I have, provided we're on time with the ask, I've never really had them turn us down. We just need to make sure that we're getting it prepared. Typically, the deadline is the 15th of the prior month, to get it to Caroline for layout and printing so that it's in mailboxes, the first of the month.
Yeah. It was suggested that we have a dark skies event for April, but there just wasn't time to put it together. Once I had the suggestion.
Yeah, we've had a star article about dark skies before. We could maybe do another one of those.
Yeah, that might be, well, it's too late for April, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we should think about having a dark skies article to coincide with the summer solstice.
Yeah.
In June.
June's open. July's
Um,
open.
And maybe even have a, kind of a, well, I hate to say an event, but it'd be kind of cool.
I asked Adrian to send the Dark Skies Committee an article I read about a town on the East Coast, I think it was in North Carolina, that I don't know if it has an ordinance or not, but they did do a big push on dark skies. And I think whether or not we have an ordinance, we will have an ordinance at some point, we're going to have to accompany it with a lot of public education. And the star is kind of obvious. We probably need to be clever about thinking about other ways to educate the public, but star articles probably don't hurt either.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can definitely do something at Day in the Park. But I'm all for doing more than that. If we can figure it out.
Well, I can write things. Do people?
I was
want me
going to say
write
that's
something?
usually the issue is who's writing it and what's the topic and pulling something together. So always happy to have suggestions and folks willing to draft things.
Okay.
Do you all want me to draft something?
Absolutely.
I didn't think that was going to be hard.
The
Okay.
last time I drafted something, about a quarter of it got published because it was too long.
It generally like a page of a 1-page article, including a picture.
A
It's usually
word
what we're
count
going.
would be really helpful.
Yeah.
I don't
It's about
remember.
500.
I was gonna say, I have one somewhere that Caroline provided before, and I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. Might be
I think it was
500?
between 400 and 500 words, but if you
Yeah.
could check, that would be
Okay,
helpful.
I will.
Picture or a graphic or something.
Yes,
Mhm.
always need an image to go along with it.
Oh, that
Well, I can
graph.
find it in image, but I'm not sure who looks into the copyright issues. I mean, Google is great for images.
There is actually, if you search Google Images, there is a little, you have to kind of go into the fine print underneath the search box, but there's a way that you can check a box for, I think it's like Creative Commons only or something. So your search results will all be things that we can
Bing has
use.
that. I don't know that Google has that, but I can look.
I have used it in Google Chrome
Okay.
search. If you go to the specifically to the Google, to the images
Images,
search,
okay. I'll
you can
check.
find it. You kind of have to look for it. Caroline showed me how to find it.
Okay.
So chair and committee matters. Are we ready to go on?
I think so. Chair and committee members.
Oh my God, there's new pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone?
Any?
Do we have any chair and committee matters?
I think that's a no.
No.
The only
there
thing
is
I
one.
want, it's not really super important, but we lost a baby owlet last night in the wind.
What happened?
Oh, you got blown away, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that we're gonna have a really not a good bird population this year after these storms, and then all the trees that have been taken down around, at least around me, they were all nesting trees, and so
Oh, what a shame.
I don't know where the little. I'm just brokenhearted. On chair and committee matters, at the last, we had asked with our liaisons if we could review the quarry project. And I know they took that to council and the answer was yes. So can we please get that on our agenda for us to start looking at that as well? I think that has extremely high impact, especially since they're trying to change the conditions of the HCP to allow for more take of endangered species, all 4 butterflies. And so I do think we should be reviewing that as soon as we can before it goes much further.
Okay.
Thanks. April 26th is our next meeting.
I have one question, just quick. It's just, what's the status of the Crocker Trail redo?
The resurfacing,
Yeah.
we just put it out to bid.
Oh,
We
good.
are going mandatory pre-bid meeting with contractors in early April, open bids in late April, and hopefully can bring it to council to award in early May. So we need to, the funding got approved in late December, and then, I don't know if many of you have been on the trail. It was
Yeah.
damaged in the early storms, and then it
Yeah.
was full of water in the last one, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had updated you guys, maybe it was Complete Streets, and if I didn't, apologies. We had asked Caltrans if some of that emergency funding that we're applying for streets could go towards getting it back to the state that it was in before the storms, just so that the price didn't escalate. And because it's not a federal route, they didn't have any mechanism. So we did a little bit of the cleanup outside of that project, and we're gonna see what the numbers come in at with the state that it's in right now. But yeah, we did, when we got the funding approved, we need to start spending the money. So
So this year, the project
Yeah.
will start.
yeah, work should start in June.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So I'm going to be on work travel April 26th, which is our next meeting. And I'm going to request to join by telephone after posting the agenda on my hotel room door. Because I believe we're discussing dark skies.
I think that's still a little bit TBD based on when the subcommittee can meet and if we're ready to move it forward. But if we've had a couple other things that we talked about tonight that we want to agendize next month. So, yep.
Would you be able to attend if we made this 1 week earlier?
I don't,
Let's not even
I think
try.
we have
Calendar
room-
open?
room
said, yeah.
availability
yeah, I
issues.
don't think that's
Let's not even try.
necessarily an easy thing to do on the fly.
And Shauna and Jason are here.
And I don't know if we had mentioned this before, but we have heard through staff and our city attorney that a number of legislature members were proposing bills to allow, I don't know what kind of remote meetings. So they think that something will probably pass at some point, maybe by summer or next January. So maybe we're in a kind of a temporary situation with the rules we have to follow right now.
I hope that letting everything blow up makes them figure out how to make it work. Kind of like CalPERS and CalSTRS with the fossil fuel investments.
Currently, the city calendar doesn't have anything for Wednesday, the 12th. That doesn't necessarily mean the room is open,
That's-
I'm
but,
also out of town that day.
okay.
And
It's
that's
also-
2 weeks earlier.
That's 2 weeks earlier, yeah.
And very soon.
But you know, I'm really excited to move up our deciding about our review. So I would do it, except Aaron's not available anyway. So it doesn't solve anything.
Sorry, I'll do what I can. Anything else before we adjourn? Do I get to use the gavel now?
Yeah.
If you want,
I'll turn the microphone off. Meeting adjourned.
mm-hmm.